Namaste, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's going to be just a little conversation, a little talk. I had a question today. Somebody asked me a couple questions of like my perception of ending negative relationships and what do I do with my feelings and where do I place my anger and how do I deal with the frustrations of allowing myself to be a target. So I'm going to discover and discuss, and of course YouTube has changed to where if you allow children to view your videos, then they disable conversations, right? So you're not able to leave any feedback, you're not able to leave anything. So feel free to respond to me via Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you want to reach out to me and you have feedback over this or you want to continue this conversation, feel free to do so. So first of all, I want to say that it's always kind of bittersweet letting someone go that you've had a long-term relationship with. There's times in our lives, where we've endured a relationship because it's all we know. Whether that's familiarity, whether it's out of convenience, sometimes it's a friend or a relative that we've had for a long time. Other times we don't want to let that person down, or we don't want to hurt that other person or even ourselves, right? So we want to delay having the conversation. And there's a variety of facets that cause this dilemma in our mind, of course. Sometimes it's just our perception. Sometimes we think that that person is just behaving this way temporarily because of the situation that they may be in. They may be stressed from work or relationships or finances or other things, kids that are going on, and that's why they're reflecting that way towards us. But sometimes we didn't realize that from the beginning that those people are just toxic. And they're toxic in all the relationships. And what we're doing is actually enabling this behavior. So there's a variety of different facets to this of why we tell ourselves to continue on in this relationship. So realize that what you're telling yourself is probably absolutely normal. Sometimes we just think it's within ourselves, that we're just crazy ourselves and, this is okay. But really, you need to define what your definition of normal is and where you're at with your relationship with yourself and others. So it's really a big struggle to even have the conversation, to start the conversation, because in your mind, a lot of times we over exaggerate what's really going to occur. And that's not always the case. I know sometimes I've had conversations with people and it ended up a lot worse and a lot more dramatic than I anticipated. So we never really know, right? But what I want to encourage you is have the conversation you're afraid to have now. Do not wait, do not procrastinate, because it only delays the healing process for yourself and for the other individual. A lot of times these individuals don't even realize the behavior that's occurring, and they have treated probably a lot of people in their life in this manner, and they don't realize that it's unhealthy. They don't realize it's toxic. They have been enabled, right? And so what we've got to do is figure out a way to empower those people. And the other thing I want you to really realize is the relationship you have with others is a direct reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. So if you're loving yourself, if you're kind, if you're respectful, if you have a lot of honor within yourself, you're going to give that to other people. If you have a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of anxiety, a lot of those negative things, you're going to portray towards other people. So once again, realize that whoever this person is in your life that's being toxic or being negative or creating the drama, they're having that within themselves, right? That's one of the biggest keys to all relationships besides forgiveness. So, ending the relationship, the sooner you can end it or have this conversation with this person, it allows an opportunity for growth. So if I'm being rude or disrespectful towards you, but I don't realize I'm being that way, then the quicker you have the conversation, the quicker either we can separate, move on, or the quicker I can grow. So realize that delaying it only delays the entire healing process for everybody within the relationship. So, give yourself an opportunity to separate from this person and just communicate in whatever manner you are that they're just no longer a positive influence and the reasons why. It's very important to get to the emotions and the feelings. And realize also that sometimes letting go of this person is an opportunity to just relinquish the past and to move on from the past. And it's an opportunity to start fresh, whole, and complete. Letting the toxic people out of your life also allows you to release the behavior that I talked about of enabling and transform truly into empowerment. So years ago, I used to drink quite a bit on the weekends, and so we would all go to Fuel and have a really good time. And a lot of times there'd be 30 to 40 people that would get together and just hang out. And so we would drink and have a good time and do a lot of crazy things. But I'm no longer that person. And so I no longer have the same relationship with some of those people, right? And so it's completely okay, right? It's okay that they let me go out of their life and I let them go out of their life. So that common thread that we have of consuming alcohol is no longer a part of my life. But a lot of those people still do it. Some of them don't do it at all. Some of them have gone on and have kids and things like that. So realize that, that sometimes relationships just end naturally. There's other times that people have been really toxic in my life and I don't know how to deal with it completely, totally. So I just kind of ghost them is what you call it. I just kind of let them go. Others I would have an in-depth conversation with of why I was moving on from the relationship. Sometimes the conflict and the arguments became so heated. There was this huge dissension, and those relationships probably did not end in a positive note. There's still some of that kind of built up of there was no closure, right? But a lot of times we can't always depend upon ourselves to have closure. We need the other person as well. And so realize that giving yourself the opportunity to have closure on your part long term, even though they're not willing to communicate, that's completely okay. One of the things that have really helped me in my transformation and finding forgiveness through a lot of these relationships, and I talk about this on a lot of my workshops, is a letter of intention. So you write a letter of intention to that person, but you never have the intention that you're really going to send it to them. So sit down and write all the good things that you want out of their life, and feel free to write down some of the high-level issues, the conflict, the anxiety, the things that have occurred. Write that down, put it on paper, give it a positive intent with when you're writing it to let them know that you love them, accept them, but never the true intent of sending the letter. And this allows it to get off your chest. This allows it to just let go completely and totally. Realize that we truly only have a limited amount of breaths in our life, and that we need to make sure that we're filling our lungs with health and wellness, and not toxins, right? So think of this analogy in all aspects of your life. With the food that you consume, with your work, right, where you spend your 40 hours plus a week, with your friends, your home life, your total environment. Your space is very limited. Your lungs are very precious. So you want everything to be healthy and well-being. And so when you are going through that concept of everything in your life being as healthy as possible, it makes you realize that this all has to do with healthy boundaries. And you need healthy boundaries in all aspects of your life, professionally and personally. So realize that our life is always changing. We're always moving. We're always evolving. We're never really changing the same. A lot of our core values of who we are stay the same, but other aspects of our life always change. So realize that some of the relationships that we have are just seasonal. They may be just here for a week or two or a month or two, or they may be here for a short period, but other relationships are really truly for an entire lifetime. And so it's okay that through this journey that we've had friends for longer periods, but no longer are those people serving us and we're not serving them, and it's not a healthy relationship, and it's time just to let them go. And maybe at some point in our life that we can maybe rekindle that relationship, or we can rebound or come back. So hopefully that kind of gives you the foundation of what is going on with relationships, and that when you let people go, it's completely, totally okay. When they let you go, it's completely okay. That you are moving on, they're moving on, and seasons and times and things change. So the second question is, what do you do with the feelings, and where do you place your anger? So I'm going to go to the most extreme example in my life, and it's not easy, and it always depends upon the relationship, and it can take years to move on and realize that's normal too. But a few years ago, I was physically assaulted by a yoga instructor, and most of us would think, well, that's impossible, right? That, you know, somebody that even went through the veterans training, right, that understands the concepts of PTSD and understands what a trigger can do when you physically put your hands on another person, right? But realize that most yoga instructors that I know personally have faced trauma, hence why they're a yoga instructor, because they're looking to help heal themselves. They're looking to help kind of find resolution to their past, and to be able to move on. And through this journey, they're able to help other people as well. So finding forgiveness, of course, was really difficult for me, just because it brought up a lot of things from the past. And people that have been in the military and that have been exposed to a lot of death and things like that, I'll realize that, like, when we're triggered, that to us all we're doing is doing what we can as a defense mechanism to save our lives and those people around us that we care and love about. So whether it's a bear or somebody pulling out in front of you in road rage, or somebody that physically assaulted you, we're going to do everything we can to kind of honor and protect ourselves. So I was really proud in the moment that I did not physically even touch this person. I did nothing to them, and I was able to restrain and walk away. But I realized through the journey of analyzing it that she was just projecting all the frustration, the guilt, the shame that she had in herself, her relationship that she had within herself. She's reflecting that towards me. All right. So once again, you know, one thing I want you to get out of this is remember that relationships you have with yourself or with others is a direct reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. So all the things that she had built up over time, she was just taking out on me. So it's definitely a situation I'll never forget, but through time, right, through a process of unconditional love and acceptance, I've been able to forgive her, and I've been able to move on. So anytime, especially right after this incident, that I felt anxious or I felt angry towards her, I would stop, I would pause, I would meditate, and I would set my intention so many times throughout the day for forgiveness. And then when you begin to breathe and truly manifest forgiveness, then you begin to feel the weight, the stress, all those burdens, all those things fall off your shoulders, right? So eventually, the numerous times a day dwindle down to numerous times a week, then very infrequently, you know, a couple times a month, now to the point where it's really, truly only an occasional trigger, right? I immediately ended the relationship. Healthy boundary for me is that every time I saw this person now, it was a trigger. I wanted to defend myself. I felt very frustrated. I didn't understand why she would physically assault me. But I don't want to ever harm or hurt anybody at any point, mentally, physically, or spiritually. So in order for me to do that, I have to move myself out of that situation, right? That war zone, that trigger zone. And so I know what's healthy for me, I know what's healthy for everybody in my family, is to make sure that I am as far removed from this person as possible. So I ended the relationship immediately, right? And I thought that that would resolve it, but of course it didn't, because she continued to gossip and have slander and have all this negative energy into the community. And you know, the yoga community is a really close-knit community anyway. So when I thought I was moving on, you know, a week or two or a month later, somebody would bring up something that she had said or done, or whatever. The drama just continued on and on and on. So it took me a little bit longer, just because of the environment that I was in, at being a yoga instructor in Kansas City and her being a yoga instructor in Kansas City. So I want to just say that's kind of like a worst case scenario, but through trauma and through the triggers and the trauma from the incident and the traumas from the past, you're able to find an opportunity to heal, to find forgiveness and trust, right? So, how do you deal with the frustrations of allowing yourself to be a target? So, this is kind of playing the role of a victim and not the hero, and I'll explain that through this next topic here. That you really have to set up healthy boundaries, and those are truly the key in all relationships, whether it's work, professionally or personally. And once you establish those healthy boundaries, it becomes easier and more obtainable, right? Because now you have been able to find respect and honor and pride within yourself. So I'll give you a couple examples. So if my daughter's always charging up credit card debt and I'm always paying her credit card debt, I'm enabling her to do that, right? I'm not empowering her. So what I need to do is figure out a way to empower her through that journey and that process. It's the same thing with yourself and others. So years ago, and I probably didn't handle the situation as good as I could have, but once again, sometimes I get to my point and that's it, and I think people need to realize it's okay to get a little angry and get the frustration and get all that out so you can move past it. But I was at work, and I worked as a government contractor, and I came in, say my lunch was from 12 to 1. I came in a couple minutes late one day, and we're in this confined area, and my manager had yelled at something to me about, why are you late? And I basically yelled back at him and said, I can walk out the door and never come back into this place again. I'm okay with that. I don't have to work here. But if you want me to work here, you need to have respect for me and honor that I'm a contractor, and that if I come in 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late, that I will make up that time, and that I'm more productive than anybody else in this position. So I basically yelled back at him because he yelled at me in front of everybody. And the office was quiet for hours. It was pretty kind of comical because you could hear everybody chatting and type it on their computer. But it set the foundation that I don't want you to push me around, and I don't want you to be bullying me, right? So that's the same thing with the person that kind of assaulted me. She still bullies people today. I still have people reaching out to me that have taken her class and said that she's so passive aggressive, or that if there's certain things that you don't do so well in her class, she kind of picks on you, or if you say something, she kind of picks on you. So begin to see yourself as a hero and not a victim. Allow yourself to be removed from the unhealthy relationship with positive intent, and provide yourself a sense of respect, honor, and pride of who you are. See yourself as that this journey has been positive, and that going forward it's going to be positive, and it's going to be good for everybody involved. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope this answers your questions, and realize that when you change your perspective of yourself, I want you to realize that you're truly worthy. You're worthy of a healthy, holistic, loving, kind. You are more than enough, and you deserve acceptance and love in all your relationships. So I hope this was helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I hope you have an amazing day. Namaste. Thank you so very much.